بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم وصلی اللہ علی النبی الکریم رب اشرح لی صدری ویسر لی امری واحلل عقدۃ من لسانی یفقہوا قولی. I would like to say a few words about Hadith literature. According to the Islamic belief, there is no difference as far as the authenticity is concerned. There is no difference between Quran and Hadith. Anything which we read in the Quran is authentic. So is the case of Hadith. Anything which we read in Hadith is also authentic. Now, you must know that the way of compilation of both was one and the same. Hadith was compiled by the same method which was applied to the compilation of the Quran. You know, Quran was not sent to the Prophet as a book. No, it was revealed by the angels, and then it was recited by the Prophet. So Quran, the method of the Quran was that Prophet received revelation and then he repeated or recited that revelation. His followers listened his recitation and they memorized it. This process continued generation after generation until the age of printing press, until there was age of printing press. Before printing press, the same process was prevalent in every generation. Then when the age of printing press came, then his followers compiled an authentic book by calligraphy. There were so many experts in calligraphy. These calligraphers compiled, prepared some authentic copy of the Quran, and this was printed. Then now we see that we are living in the computer age. Now we can find a typed copy of the Quran. So after the age of print media or printing press, everything was preserved in printing form. Before it was preserved in memory as well as through calligraphy. Now it is preserved in the form of printed books. Same process was applied in the Hadith literature also. You know, Hadith was also recited from the Prophet. Hadith means speech. So what Prophet said was memorized by his followers. And again the same process was repeated, that generation after generation, they memorized these hadiths through memory and as well as through writing. So this process was continued up to the age of printing press. And when printing press was available, the followers of Islam applied this technique and they prepared printed copies of hadith. So this was the method of compilation and preservation was one and the same. Quran and hadith both were preserved in this, following this method. So both are authentic. Both are authentic. It is true that there are some mawzu hadith. Mawzu means fabricated hadith. These fabricated hadith were also written and mostly during the Abbasid period. But Islamic scholars have scrutinized all these hadiths. For example, there was a great Islamic scholar, his name was Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani. Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani. He was a great scholar of hadith literature. So he is, after lifelong study of hadith literature, he prepared 6 volumes. 3 volumes was about those mawzu ahadith. Its title was Al-Ahadithul Mawzu'a, and the 3 volumes was about those authentic hadiths. That's what, and the title of this series was Al-Ahadith Sahihah. So anyone who want to know which one is hadith sahih and which one is hadith mawdu, he can easily understand after reading these books. So I repeat that Quran and hadith both are equally authentic in Islam. We cannot differentiate between the two. And both were compiled and preserved by the same method. The method which followers of Islam applied in compilation of Quran, the same method they applied in compilation and preservation of hadith. There are dozens of books published on this subject. So anyone who wants to know the details of this process, the history of the compilation, so he can read this in these books. These books are available in every library, in every bookshops. Then I would like to refer some hadith only to give an example how precious are these hadiths. How I can say that, why I say that these hadiths are pearls of divine wisdom. Without hadith, we cannot understand the religion of Islam. So there is a hadith very, very important to understand the spirit of Islam. Prophet of Islam has said, Man arafa Allah ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. One who realizes that there is no God but one God, he will find entry into paradise. is very, very important, because this hadith tells us that what is the starting point of Islam? What is the starting point of this faith? It is realization. It is discovery. So, in Arabic it is al-marifa. Marifa means realization. So the starting point of Islam is realization, and not simply recitation of kalima, or born in a Muslim family. There is not starting point of Islam. Your Islam begins when you realize or discover the truth of Islam, the truth of God's existence. So when you discover God, when you discover the truth of God, then your Islam begins. Man arafa la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. One who realizes that there is no God but one God, he will find entry into paradise. So this is very important. From this hadith, we know that the starting point of Islam is not recitation of kalma or simply birth in some Muslim family, but the starting point is realization, discovery. From realization or discovery, you enter Islamic faith. You find entry into Islamic faith, and then you follow the whole system of Islam. Then there is hadith about worship. What is worship in Islam? This hadith tells us that ta'budillah kannaka tarah. Ta'budillah kannaka tarah. Perform worship as if you are seeing God. This is the criterion of ibadat. If your ibadat gives you this kind of spirituality, then you are doing ibadah. Ibadah means living in the presence of God. Living in the presence of God. So if your ibadah, your worship, is giving you this kind of spiritual experience, then you are doing ibadah. Otherwise not. So Prophet of Islam says, Ta'budillah kannaka tarah. Perform ibadah, perform worship as if you are seeing God. So this hadith tells us what is ibadah in Islam. Then there is a hadith أن تحب لأخيك ما تحب لنفسك. It means that it means that behave others the same behavior which you want about yourself. It, it gives us a criterion. Everyone knows about his likes and dislikes. Everyone knows about his likes and dislikes. So we have to adopt the same behavior with others. It's a very simple criterion of moral behavior. Very, very simple criterion of moral behavior or social behavior. We have to do with others the same which we want about ourselves. For example, we dislike hate, we dislike harm, we dislike malice. So we have to save ourselves from these things. We want to be loved from others, so we have to love others. So it is a very simple criterion of moral behavior. Then the Prophet of Islam has said, Al-Muslimu man salama an-nasu min lisanihi wa yadihi. A true Muslim is one by whose hands and tongue people are safe. This hadith tells us that we have to live in a society as a harmless person. We have to live among people as a peaceful person. This is very important. Then the Prophet of Islam has said, وَعَلَى الْعَاقِلِ مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ مَغْلُوبًا عَلَى عَقْلِهِ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ سَاعَاتٌ سَاعَةٌ يُنَاجِي فِيهَا رَبَّهُ وَسَاعَةٌ يُحَاسِبُ فِيهَا نَفْسَهُ وَسَاعَةٌ يَتَفَكَّرُ فِيهَا فِي سُنَنِ اللَّهِ وَسَاعَةٌ يَخْلُو فِيهَا لِحَاجَتِهِ مِنَ الْمَطْعَمِ وَالْمَشْرَبِ. It means that every wise person must follow this pattern of life. There are 4 moments. Every person must experience these 4 moments in his daily life. The first moment or first experience, every person must experience these 4 things in his life. The first experience is that he find moment when he is in conversation with God. He find some moment in his life, in his daily life, when he is engaged in conversation with God. Then the second experience, that he must have some moment when he is engaged in introspection. he must experience some moment in his daily life when he is engaged in introspection. Then the third experience, that he must find some moment when he is contemplating the creature, contemplated in the creature and as well as the rest of the universe. So these are four moments or four experiences. One is contact to God. The second is introspection. The third is contemplation in the creature. And the fourth is يخلو فيها لحاجته من المطعم والمشرب. Four is to find your livelihood. You have to engage yourself in your worldly needs. These are four moments in which one must divide his daily life. Then there is a hadith. The Prophet of Islam has said, Amarani Rabbi betisin khashyati llahi fi sirri wal alaniya wa kalimati al-adli fi al-ghadabi wal raza wal qasdi fi al-faqr wal ghana wa an asila man qata'ani wa afu amman zalamani wa an yakuna samti fikran wa nutqi zikran wa nadri ibratan. It means that God has given me 9 commandments. 9 commandments. First is to fear God in public and in private, both. To fear God in public and private, both. And to speak justice, when I am angry or I am not angry, in both the situations. And I have to be normal when I am poor and when I am rich, in both the situations. Then I have to make contact with those who cut off with me. And I have to forgive those who make me angry. And I have to be patient with those who give me some harms. And then my silence will be contemplation, and my speech will be remembrance of God. And my observation must be to draw a lesson. Here you can see that 9 commandments gives you a complete way of life. It's very important for a person who want to live, who want to follow the religion of God. I think that these 9 commandments gives you a complete system, a complete way of life. Then I will try to refer some more hadith to understand the Islamic spirit. A person came to the Prophet. He was a Muslim. So he asked, Ya Rasulallah, allimni kalimatin aishu bihinna wala tuksir alayya fansa. O Prophet of God, give me a master advice by which I may be able to manage all the affairs of my life. Prophet replied, La taghzab, La taghzab. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. It means that don't be angry even when provoked. You have to keep patience. You have to keep avoidance. You know, in this world, every time we face some provocation, some negative experience, you know, world is full of negativity. So, what to do in such a situation? The Prophet says that don't go to confrontation. You have to keep patience, forgiveness. Why? Because if you adopt the way of negative reaction, then you will lose the opportunity of having a reward. According to Islam, forgiveness or patience is also a way of ibadah, worship, just like namaz. When you hear the call from mosque, you proceed to mosque and offer namaz. So is the case of anger. Once someone provokes you, there is a call for this kind of prayer. That is prayer of patience, prayer of forgiveness, prayer of tolerance, prayer of avoidance. It is also a prayer. It is also a ibadah. So when someone provokes you, there is also a call. If you observe patience and forgiveness, then you are performing an ibadah. So this is very important aspect of Islam. And this aspect is very, very clear. This aspect we find in a very clear words in Hadith. Then there is a Hadith, وَاللَّهِ لَا يُؤْمِنُ وَاللَّهِ لَا يُؤْمِنُ وَاللَّهِ لَا يُؤْمِنُ الَّذِي لَا يَأْمَنُ جَارُهُ بَوَائِقَهُ. It means that he is not a true Muslim. He is not a true Muslim who creates problem for others. He is not a true Muslim who creates problems for others. This is very important. Then there is Hadith, إِلَّمْ تَنْفَعُهُ فَلَا تَضُرَّهُ. It means that either you have to live as a useful person, or you have to save you from being a problem for others. So there are only two positions in Islam. Two in moral, in terms of morality, there are only two positions in Islam. One is that you have to live in your society as a useful person, for others. This is the first position. Then the second position is that you save yourself from creating problems for others. You have to live as a no problem person. So there are only two positions. Either you have to live as a useful person, or you have to live as a no problem person. There is no third position. If you are harmful to others, then you cannot find blessings from God. If you are a problem person, then again you will be deprived from the blessing of God. This is mentioned in the Hadith in a very clear words. Then there is Hadith, if you want to live as a lovely person among people, if you want to be loved from others, then afshu salam, spread assalamu alaikum. It is not simply saying assalamu alaikum. It means that live as a peaceful person among others. Afshu salam means live among person with peace, with peaceful sentiments. You are free from hate. You are free from malice. You are free from all those negative feelings. So, this is the way which gives you blessings from God. Once Prophet saw a person. Prophet said, do you want to find entry into paradise? He said, yes, why not? Prophet said that save yourself from malice. Save yourself from malice. ولا تكن في قلبك غش لأحد. You have to save yourself from malice, from negative thoughts. This is very important. If you want to receive blessings from God, you want to find entry into paradise, you have to adopt this character. You have to adopt this character. This character in a single word is positive character. So save yourself from negative character and adopt the positive character. In speech, in behavior, in dealing, in everything, you have to adopt positivity, and you have to save yourself from negativity. In other words, I can say that there are flowers, at the same time there are thorns. If you see a plant, if you see a rose plant, you will find that there are flowers, beautiful flowers, and on the same branch there are thorns. So if you want to find entry into paradise, you have to live among people as flowers. And if you want to be deprived from the paradise, then adopt the way of thorns. So thus God gives a demonstration. Thorn and flowers both are a demonstration from God. Thorny character is of those who will be deprived from blessing of God. And flower-like character is of those who will find blessings from God. The Prophet once said that Maslul Mu'min kamaslil khama. Mu'min is like a tender plant. So this is the example of a mu'min. You have to live with positivity. You have to live as a flower. Then you will find the blessing of God, and finally you will find entry into paradise. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم أجمعين.